Steve grew up in the business and now runs the business. He started sweeping the warehouse in high school, went on to do advertising and public relations. He got his undergraduate degree at Tulane University and a graduate degree in England, and came back in 1981 to join Rockmount RanchWear. He'll tell you some of the trials and tribulations of working with Papa Jack and his father, which are very interesting. Steve has expanded the business internationally, introduced relaxed fit shirts, which are now industry standard. The double, I forget the sawtooth pocket is the trademark RanchWear style. Rockmount was founded in 1946. Papa Jack was the oldest living CEO for a number of years, and he worked daily until he was 107. Before I bring Steve up, I want to introduce his lovely wife, Wendy. And the ever-vigilant Wazee, the dog. I'd have to bring the dog up on the stage, Steve. Let's see. I think that's it. Enjoy the presentation. Steve, come on. Steve Weil, President and CEO of Rockmount RanchWear.
I want to thank Seth, but before I start, I just want to say that when they asked me to speak, I found out it was a trick, because today they called up and they said, "You are bringing Wazee, aren't you?" And I think the whole thing was a setup for me to bring him. And I'll tell you why he's here a little later, because I'm sure many of you are wondering, why is he here? Because normally when I come here, he sits in the car while I work out. I also want to acknowledge a lot of very close family and friends who are here. Larry Boning, Henry Strauss, Sandy Adams, Bob Sawyer, Henry Arkin. And forgive me if I miss anybody, but it's nice seeing old friends of our family. So what I'm going to do is just run through some images and talk about them a little bit, and then tell a couple of anecdotes. So I'm going to see if this actually works. That first image, by the way, is the cover of my book, Western Shirts, which does, it's sort of an art book that covers the history and design of Western wear, of which many of the companies that are featured are all based here in Denver. So there's the Rockmount building where we've been since 1946. It's at 1626 Wazee. This building was built in 1909, and what's interesting about it, can everybody hear this okay? What's interesting about it is that it was designed by Fisher & Fisher, who were the preeminent architects of their day. They did a lot of the major buildings in Denver. They did the Voorhees Memorial at Civic Center. They did South High School. They did a lot of major buildings around the city of Denver. And I've always found it very interesting. Why did they do this warehouse in Lodo? Well, it turns out that the first company that was there bought plumbing supplies, or sold plumbing supplies to Fisher & Fisher projects. But if you look at the style of that building, there's certain elements that you see in other buildings they did, and this is considered preschool architecture, and it's an unusual, considered modern commercial architecture for 1909. That's the interior of our store. We started out as a manufacturing company that only did wholesale, and we did wholesale only until my grandfather was turning 100, which would be 2001, and CNN was coming to Denver to do a feature on us, and we were just about to launch a website. We decided to start doing retail with the advent of the web in 2001. And then later on, when we were restoring the Rockmount building, we decided to add a retail store. So strangely, we didn't do retail all that long. We sold to stores all over the world. And that's still our primary business, is selling to stores. But one day we woke up and the whole retail landscape completely changed. And I basically blame it on Walmartization, with the loss of so many mom and pop stores from every area of retail, whether you're talking pet stores or sporting goods or Western wear. The number of independent stores has declined hugely in this country in the last 10 or 15 years. So one day we woke up and we realized all the stores we used to sell in this area around downtown were gone. People were coming in the door and asking where could they buy Rockmount, so we decided to add retail. So that's our first floor, which, by the way, we're the longest company to be in that building since 1946. This is kind of interesting. This is an article from 1959. I'm the little one. My grandfather, my father in the image. And it's been a family business that my grandfather started in 1946. And what's kind of interesting is that when he started, the market for Western wear was regional. The Rocky Mountain states primarily. And then my father, Jack, came into the company in 1952, and he expanded our brand east of the Mississippi. And he was responsible for building the market across the entire United States. And then I came in 1981, after Seth said, studying in Europe, and one of the things that I concentrated on was building our international business. So today, we sell throughout the United States and most developed countries. That's my grandfather, Papa Jack, who my son Coulter, age 13, named Papa Jack. He was Papa to me, and he changed my grandfather's name pretty well. And he doesn't know this, but you can Google Papa Jack. These are some early shirts. This one is one I found when I was in high school sweeping the warehouse. It was a single piece that just struck me as a work of art. And I put it away when I was about 15, 16 years old. And I came back to work at the company several years later, and I was haunted by where was that shirt I'd found. And then many years later, I was in the basement of the Rockmount building. We were clearing out the basement to turn it into a garage about 7 years ago, and there was a desk in the basement with that in the drawer. And so I was very happy to find it. And I've never seen another one like it. It's very rare, but this is from the early days of Rockmount, and it's very finely made, and it has all kinds of special details. And it sort of launched my interest in collecting our vintage pieces, which some of you may have seen the exhibit that was at Foothills this summer. So we have a museum at Rockmount as well of our vintage pieces. This is another old one. That one I picked up in Los Angeles in the early 80s. And this was before people had really heard of the concept vintage shirts. There was one store I was very fascinated by that carried vintage shirts, but it wasn't a concept most of us had heard of. You'd buy old, clothing like this. And of course now it's become a very culture thing. But that shirt was in the store, and it was so old I didn't recognize it as being one of ours. And the man who owned the store, I introduced myself. He said, "I got to show you the shirt." I don't even think he knew it was Rockmount. My heart stopped because I'd never seen one so old like this. It had all these features that I couldn't identify or I had never seen because it was so early. And that also was, that shirt right there was the first one that